I've noticed I've been all about the oversharing lately. And I was like, oh, how are we going to start this one? The pre show, not for the listeners, just for the viewers. And I was like, oh, well, we started early today. I was rushing home. And like, as soon as I sat in my seat, I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. So I just got
Oh,
back from getting the hoo ha waxed
oh,
because
that's
a
what you
girl
mean
has to
by
keep.
over. I'm like sitting here lost, like, okay, where is this going? Okay, but keep going.
I'm like, do I share with all of our listeners what I do during my day?
Hmm.
Yes. Girls got to
Now,
keep some shit in order.
now, did you get this done because it's time to, like, it's been a while and you need to get down there done, or is this because of a date? And you're like, I don't want him to be like, what's going on down there, girlfriend?
I keep my shit in order. I like to keep it tidy no matter if I'm dating or not. So I don't
Okay.
actually do it for men, I do it for myself.
Well, that's awesome to hear. Yeah, I mean, that's a much better answer than
And I
my.
think all women should be doing that. If you get, no matter what you get done, as far as your nails or waxing or eyebrows or facials, you should be doing it for yourself, not for
Yeah,
someone else. So
exactly. Yeah, I kind of feel that way too because it's like the better you feel about yourself, the better like other areas of your life will improve. I know some people think that it's just vain and you just stare in your mirror and you like pluck your eyelashes away or you go and get them done. But I think when you look at yourself and you like what you're seeing, you naturally have an expectation for the person that you're dating to also appreciate how you look. And if they don't, it becomes a problem. So
I
it's like,
agree.
yeah.
When gosh, I think I was probably in my 20s, and a friend of mine, we were out shopping, and she was giving me about any underwear, boring underwear. Dude's
You're-
not going to see them quite yet, anyways. So who
yeah,
cares if they're cute? And she was like, because you'll feel sexy if
exactly.
you know that everything is where you want it to be, then you'll feel, and that's what's important.
Yeah. I will say though, you're breaking up a lot when you're talking. Like I'm only getting like every few words.
Uh-huh. I just noticed that too. So I'm gonna hang on. I'm gonna fix this.
Oh, I had to like be quiet just now because I'm like watching this guy clean up bottles. I live like back to the VA hospital here in Los Angeles, and it's like a man back here cleaning up bottles. I'm sorry, there's nothing that's hotter than watching a man work. Like make his money, and he's like, in his work gear. I mean, I wear work gear as a fashion statement currently. But actually seeing a man work, that's yeah, it's nice. He's all dirty and shit.
It's a nice fantasy.
Right? You don't want to go beyond the fantasy. It's like one of those situations where you see it from afar and you're like, oh, that's hot. But then you know that if you cross that boundary and make it into a reality, it's never the same. I've noticed that in the past. And I don't know if it's because there's this saying where it's like when you have expectations, it's leading yourself to future disappointments. So if you have
Mm-hmm.
like these expectations of how this guy is going to be like, oh, he's going to like rip me apart and yada yada yada, it's usually never going to be the case.
Right.
Yeah.
That's extremely true. But also brings me to the thought of having that fantasy of the guy who works really hard, who's dirty and sweaty and gross. And, you know, most women will say they have that fantasy and men too. And when it actually comes down to it, who do they end up in relationships with?
The complete opposite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who is still single out there? The guy who works his ass off, and women and men are like, I don't really know if I really want to be with you. You don't have
Hmm.
ambitions, or you don't make enough money for me, or whatever
Hmm.
bullshit excuse
Hmm.
they can come up with. But yet the fantasy is there.
Hmm. Which is so weird in a way because I almost, this is like definitely pre-show talk, but I definitely feel like there's like this weird preconception about vocational jobs or any kind of job that requires a manual skill. And a lot of times these men and women make bank, like six figures. Like people turn up their nose at some contractors or plumbers or electricians. But the interesting thing is, you always need a plumber, you always need an electrician, and you will always need some kind of general contractor. So these people actually have money. So when people turn up their nose at them, they're like, oh no, I can't. It's because the media has done this damage to jobs like that, where it's like you only want the prestigious academic jobs or the Hollywood jobs, but you don't want these dirty jobs because it's disgusting. It's dumb. And these men are, oh my God. I remember one time, speaking of this, I was dating this guy in Pennsylvania and he like fixed potholes on the highways. It was so fuck. He was like a redneck fantasy. Like he would like chew tobacco and wear like the workman's clothes. He had like a big pickup truck. It was hot.
What happened to
But
him?
it was pure fantasy. It was never going to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think we lasted what,
See,
two weeks, and then I realized I do not see myself living in Pennsylvania.
that's true too.
Yeah. I was like, no, absolutely not. This is absolutely not going to work. Nope, can't do it. Bye.
That happens a lot, though, really, if you think about it. All
Yeah.
these fantasies people have, but that you don't end up with the fantasy,
Mhm.
but you like to role play the fantasy.
It's like a lot of these weird, like sexual fantasies too. When you see them,
Mm-hmm.
or when I see them, I'm like, okay, this is for on video. I'm pretty sure these people are hopefully they're getting paid to do this because we've talked about ethical and unethical porn and other. Actually, it's coming up in our season
Right.
premiere, season two premiere. If you're
Mm-hmm.
for those watching right now, you can actually watch that episode because it's already available to you before November gets here. But yeah, we talked about that in that episode. And I see some of these videos sometimes. I'm like, do people really want that? Like, and then you hear guys say stuff like, I want to get gang banged. I'm just like, do you really want that? Because if it comes down to it, what is that doing? Like, how is that a fulfilling experience? I'm always curious. I mean, I don't really want to find out, but I'm always curious. Oh no, you froze. Interesting. So, yeah, we're having technical difficulties. So we're going to work this out because I am now the host.
Well, I'll be doing some editing before I send the video to you this time. Shit. I lost a huge chunk of what you were saying.
I think it was still recording, so hopefully that got it. Who knows? I don't know.
I don't think it does. I think if it freezes on my end, it freezes the whole recording. Has been
Mm,
at least been my experience, but I'll try and go through and fix some of this.
Oh, it's cool.
My Wi-Fi is just, I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or if it's, I don't know what it is. But anyways,
It's probably good. I hear sometimes when you use video footage that kind of like makes things slow down a little bit, but I'm not sure.
right. I've seen people turn off their video to have better sound quality.
Hmm.
I don't know if it really helps, but I do know that Zoom is still being used for everything. And I think part of it could also just be Zoom gets overloaded at times.
That's a very strong possibility. I mean, I think Zoom is here to stay. It's like we're living in this new normal now, which has me
Mhm.
excited about the episode that we have coming up, depression, love, and COVID,
Oh,
or
yeah,
or
yeah.
love, depression, and COVID, because this is another thing that's changed our lives from now on. Like, I don't think it'll ever, ever, ever go back to pre-COVID. And it's so weird to think that last week that I was just at the gym working out, saying, "Oh, let me go into the sauna and just enjoy that one more time." Something as simple as enjoying a
I
sauna
know.
is so foreign
Mm.
now. I am like, I'm still alive. And thankfully, because now there's like that kind of depression underway going on, where it's like, okay, so we made it, but things are still different. I was on
Mhm.
the Warner Brothers lot yesterday, and it's like, even if you're outside, you cannot be anywhere without a mask on. Like, I got yelled at. I didn't realize, because I thought, I'm outside, it's fine. But I was
Right.
leaving, and the security guard was like, I had my headphones, like I was listening to the new Kanye West album, and this guy was like yelling at me, and I'm just like, why is he yelling at me? And then I see people turn. I'm like, oh, it's because I don't have on a mask. And I'm like walking out of the gate. I'm just like, interesting.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that strict down in LA right now.
Well, no, it's just Warner Brothers.
Oh, well, yeah, that
Yeah.
figures.
Or any of these studio lots, 'cause I guess they have a lot on the line to lose if, shit goes south real quick. Like, a lot to
That's
lose.
true.
But anyway, I digress. It's-
Well, let's attempt to start this for our listeners only, and hopefully my stupid Wi-Fi holds up.
yeah, I mean, all we can do is just keep trying, you know.
It's true. We'll make the best of it.
We will make the best of any bad situation. This is really not a bad situation.
It's just a frustrating one.
Who is your provider before we start the show?
I think it's Spectrum.
I have Spectrum too.
I hate them.
I hate them too so much. I actually wish, I feel like there's a monopoly. Like, we're
Hmm.
the only thing we can get. Like, I try to get other services, and they're like, no, that's not available in your area. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense, but okay.
Yeah, our two choices are either Spectrum or AT&T.
Oh. Hmm. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah,
Stupid.
it's weird. All
Oh
right,
well.
let's go.
Welcome back, listeners. We are starting this episode with some questions.
Yes, it's our second, I guess, edition or installment. I don't know what you would call this.
I guess edition.
Yeah, of well, I like this show because I feel like we get questions, and people who listen to our show still have
Mhm.
inquiries, I guess you would call them, when we talk about these topics. And I've even had people pull me aside sometimes to say, I didn't quite understand what you said in this show, but I was thinking this. I'm like, this is a great question. Or we're on your Facebook group, and people are asking questions within the comment section, and it's just invigorating to like see how engaged our listeners are with learning more about them, how they view and how they date. And I think it's great that you're providing such a wealth of knowledge and a lot of help to our listeners, and I think they really appreciate it, and I love it. So this has become
Yeah.
one of my favorite episodes. That's basically what I'm trying to get to.
I love this episode too because some of the questions that we're going to actually answer today, at least on my list, Kanan and I come with different questions, different lists of topics to cover, which is quite fun because we don't share them ahead of time. So I'm always curious to see the overlap. But some of what I bring today is coming straight off of the Facebook group.
Mhm.
And some of them were not necessarily questions for the show, but conversations that have come up over time that there's confusion about.
Mhm.
Um, one in particular that I really want to address because I actually got a lot of feedback on this particular question privately, and I was really surprised. So I'm excited to get started with
Let's
today's
go.
episode.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's do
Let's go.
this.
Let's do this.
You going first or am I going first?
I'll go first because this was actually so a friend pulled me aside and was like, I had a problem with something that you guys talked about in your show. And I started asking my other friends about it. And they said, no, that's not true scientifically. And I was like, well, what is it? And so he says, the question was something that was said in the show where we were like, mention not masturbate before going on a date because it zaps their energy or something like that, or it takes away their pheromones. So basically, can we talk about that more? What happens when a man or a woman masturbates before a date? Like,
I'm glad actually you brought that up because I was literally just talking about this the other day because not to give anything away, but obviously we've talked a lot that season 2 is going to be about sex, and our season 2 opener, the guest we had on talked about masturbation for men and how it is healthy.
mhm,
And I was not saying on that episode that it's unhealthy, but the fact that a sex therapist and Eastern medicine might slightly differ a little bit on this.
mhm,
Um, when I talk about your energy, I mean energetically your pheromones that you're giving off.
mhm,
So when women masturbate before a date, it releases the bonding hormone. It's a pheromone. It's when you're on the date, all of a sudden you're with this woman and you're thinking, why am I so attracted to her right now? Sure. Could she just be an attractive person? Of course. But if she is masturbating before she goes on that date, her body is releasing this hormone,
mhm,
and it's the bonding hormone. And so men don't do that the same way.
mhm,
If a man masturbates before a date, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Don't expect to have sex though on that date.
no, yeah, not really. That's going to be a little hard to do.
Right. And if you can have sex on that date, you're not going to be at your peak performance.
No, it's going to be kind of limp.
So that is simply what I meant, is that women should do it before, and men, sure, can you? Of course you can. It's
Mhm,
not going to contribute to the date in any shape or form. It might calm you, because
mhm.
I know a lot of men say that masturbation actually calms them and makes
Yeah,
them feel very grounded. So
yeah.
yes, if it does that for you, and then do that before your first date. So that way you're calm and grounded. The chances of you getting laid on a first date are probably slim. They're
Mhm,
not non existent, but they're probably a little bit slim depending on the type of people you're out there dating.
mhm.
If you are dating people that you are probably going to get laid on that first date, do not masturbate before you go.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
that
well, if the
simple.
date is the point of that, then you probably should masturbate. I think you know going in whether you should or shouldn't based on
Yes.
the interaction with the person. I will say that I think if you're more concerned with getting to know the person, and this is just me objectively, I am not a coach, I am not, certified in any way, but I would think just me thinking, thinking, that's the word of the day. But if you do it, it would take some edge off of the date. Because there were movies that I've seen growing up where they said, like, I guess it was There's Something About Mary, where that was like a
Mm-hmm.
joke where Ben Stiller's character was told, make sure you masturbate before a date, because if you don't, you might be anxious or something like that. Now, that's a movie. Yes. That's probably an assumption. Yes, because these screenwriters don't always have academic background. But that being said, I have masturbated before a date before, and it does take the edge off, and it does allow me to be more in the moment instead of thinking, oh, I want to get railed tonight, or oh, I want to fuck, you know? So
Absolutely. It
yeah.
definitely will calm you. It'll definitely keep you grounded, but it's not going to have the same effect that when women do. It doesn't
Mm,
create the same pheromone. That
okay.
that was my only point with that, was that
Okay.
women should
Hmm.
um masturbate before a date, and it will energize them. So, okay, not thinking first date. Say we are on like date 5 or 6, whatever date you feel comfortable having sex with someone, that is to be determined by you and the other person only.
Yeah.
Experts can say you shouldn't have
Consensual.
yeah, you
Mhm.
shouldn't have sex before such and such date, whatever.
Yeah,
You go with
whatever.
how you're feeling. Let's
Yeah.
be real. But
If it's meant to
it
be, it'll
comes
be.
right. And if it's at that point where you have been dating and you are ready to sleep with them, and the man has sex before, or sorry, he masturbates before and finds out during the date that she wants to sleep with you, now you're putting yourself into a position to not perform at your peak. And I'm not going to lie, there are women out there that will be into a guy, and the first time they have sex, she'll be like, oof, ooh, that wasn't good, and then she'll lose interest instead of giving him a second or third chance.
Hmm. Do you think that's why sometimes it's been said in some religions or even in some faiths that you should wait to you abstain from sex before marriage because of that? Because I mean, there that does happen. It's natural. You scratch that itch, the itch is gone, and then you move on.
No, because you need to know if you have sexual compatibility.
Okay,
Think
got
of how many people who get married and then divorce because there's cheating or there's a loss of interest because there's no sexual compatibility.
you.
It takes time to have sexual compatibility. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't always happen on the first try. You don't know what your partner likes, and your partner doesn't necessarily know what you like
Mm-hmm.
unless you both happen to be very vocal. And I mean vocal, not as in screaming during sex. I mean vocal as in being able to tell your partner in a positive way what you like and don't like.
Yeah.
That's harder to do. Not as many people are comfortable with doing that. So it takes some time to learn, what does my partner like?
Mm-hmm.
If I go down on my partner, are they moaning? Are they excited? Or are they just doing it because they want me to feel good about myself?
Mm-hmm.
Which
Hmm.
is why we'll talk about it in season 2 a lot more, why women need to stop faking orgasms. Men do, I don't know, I've heard, and we'll find out for sure from our sex therapist in season 2, but I've heard men can fake an orgasm. I don't know if it's true or not.
I mean, I have a few times in my life.
Mm, that's interesting to know. I'm excited about season 2, so I don't want us to jump
Yeah,
ahead with season 2.
I don't want to talk about too much because that will pivot the conversation definitely. But what's the next question that you got from the group?
Okay. So a question that was trying to be asked and wasn't really being answered very well. And so I really want to address it today. Someone had asked about what the men of the group thought that women really wanted. And I think there was confusion in the question. So I think the guys were confused by the framing of it, maybe. And maybe I am too. So I might be answering the wrong question here. So my apologies if I am. But my assumption is what she was trying to get at was, what do the heterosexual men out there assume women are looking for in a relationship or when it comes to dating? And she was specifically talking about straight relationships. I think she was trying to see if the men that she's dating are confused about what women are really looking for.
Mhm.
But I think the problem with that question is that there are a lot of women out there that really are still just looking for someone to be a provider.
Yeah.
And so that was my response in the question in the group was, I wanted to see how many people owned up to think that women are looking for the tall, handsome man or the guy who can financially provide.
And
And
I think that that's true.
I think to some degree it is still true. Yes. I've
Yeah.
seen in so many of these other groups that I'm in, I do a lot of research to be able to come up with all the information I share. I read a lot of books. I talk to a lot of other dating coaches. We share a lot of statistics and research with each other. We take surveys of our own. So then that way we can survey, a few thousand people and then we share our results. And my God, Facebook is a wealth of information.
This
There
is
is a group for everything.
everything. That's why I think we're in like the renaissance of really finding love via just diving into who the fuck you really are and oh no, because like something as simple as like I know we're I'm switching up the conversation a little, but we're gonna go back. Something as simple as me liking kilts. I started joining groups on Facebook that likes kilts, and I'm noticing there's men and women. So let's say
Mhm.
you're some random dude, let's say you're not, well, I'm obviously not. I mean, I do have some of that in me, but obviously I'm not of Scottish descent. That being said, there are people out there that are into doing certain things like wearing kilt or into certain hobbies that they don't think
Mhm.
a lot of people out there are into it. And then they get on Facebook and they see that there are people. It increases your chances of finding love because I see women in these groups sharing their opinions when you think that it's something only men enjoy. No, that's not the truth. There are
Mhm.
equal on both sides of people that enjoy things. So I think we are truly in the renaissance of finding the perfect mate because social media has slightly made it easier to find people like yourself if you know who you are and are willing to openly share who you are. But back to your question about I do agree with you because I don't know if I'm being ignorant by saying this, but I feel like there's this universal conditioning that happens to women. And I think mothers don't mean to do it, but they were trained by their own mothers, and their mothers are trained by their mothers, and their mothers are trained by their mothers. So I think there's like this long history of conditioning women to think that you have to find the male to be the provider for you and he'll take care of you and all you have to do is really take care of the kids. You can pursue your stuff, but really just find a man to take care of you and your family.
It's generational teaching, is what it is. We teach each generation, and I think we're coming out of it a little bit. The next generation is a little bit more open, and the next generation after that is a little bit more open.
Yeah.
But really, if you think about it, your parents and age plays a huge part in this too. But your parents have taught you, oh, you bring home a potential mate to meet the family, someone who might be long term, male or female.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to know, what do you do? Did you go to school? Do you have ambitions in life?
Mm-hmm.
What do you like to do for fun? Are you a drug user? Um, how many times have women out there, have you brought home a boyfriend who is in a band, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and your parents roll their eyes and go, oh God, that's no career.
Mm.
And that's what's happened. And that's what's created this desire to have someone who provides for you. It's not that he needs to be the breadwinner of the family anymore. It's just that he needs to be able to hold his own.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we age, it becomes more and more important to some people, especially if you're talking to single moms. A
Mm-hmm.
single mom does not want to have to provide for her children and a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, I will say I do feel that almost everyone on planet Earth is religious. And I almost feel like the one religion that's the most, I think Catholicism has the, or is it the Muslim? Anyway, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. What I'm trying to get to is everyone has a faith. And I feel like a lot of the faiths around the world does have this weird inequality amongst the genders where one is here and one is like here maybe,
Mm-hmm.
but it's always like that, and they maintain that no matter what how they evolve, no matter how modern they are, there's always that slight inequality between the two genders that are present within that faith. And I think because of that, sometimes it's going to keep us in this place where, you know, I can see maybe in two generations, yeah, we might be more fluid and more open with who we are and what we are. But as long as religion is a basis of majority of our lives, I don't know. I think,
So, yeah, to backtrack on the religion thing, Christianity, I believe, is the most popular, for lack of a better word, religion currently globally.
globally, okay,
Uh, globally, it's Christianity still.
okay.
But you're right. The majority of people, again, this is a majority, this is not everybody, the
Mhm.
majority of people have some type of faith-based background.
Yeah,
Whether you were raised in it and you don't believe in it now, or you believe in it now and you weren't raised in it, at some point in your life, the majority of people have been exposed to a faith-based religion or organization.
yes.
So, yes, what you're saying, I think, is absolutely true. It plays a huge role in how you date. If you grew up in a Christian household, traditional Christian household, and maybe now and as an adult, you're listening to us thinking, well, I'm not that religious, I'm spiritual now. Great. Me too. But like me, you were raised in that household with those parents. You know,
Hmm.
my parents were very Catholic.
Hmm.
And now as an adult, my mom's kind of moved away from it a little bit and become more spiritual. And so have I. But I went to a Catholic school as a kid. So I was raised in this belief of marriage and you don't have kids until you're married, although no one in my family followed that rule very well.
Who does?
Honestly. But you have this ingrained belief system, whether you follow it or not is different,
Yeah.
but it's how you're raised. It's what you were taught to believe is right versus wrong. And like you said, there's a lot of religions out there that women are not equal to men still.
Yeah. I remember I had one experience. And just to show this, I really shouldn't share this because I do not want to get this person in trouble. So I'm going to stop myself. But
Mm.
yeah, it, it's very prevalent in around the world. Let's just not be dumb about it. Around the world, this is still an issue. My next thought is it okay? Like, is it okay to want to just be a housewife? Because I do have female friends. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're Republican or they're Trump supporters, but they definitely enjoy and appreciate the traditional, whatever that may be. Well, to them, it's considered, a woman stays home, takes care of the kids,
Mm-hmm.
the man goes out, he has a really good job, he provides for the family. They love it. They think it's the most American thing, I guess. I don't know. It's like apple pie to them. Is it okay to be the person because there's that struggle when it comes to fighting for equality and fighting for different things. There are people who do like and do love the conditioning or the traditions that we have mostly known most of our lives. So yes, if women do want those things from a man, is that okay?
Is it okay for a woman to want to be provided for? Is it okay for a woman to want to be a stay-at-home parent? Is it okay for a man to want to be the stay-at-home parent? It's choice. It's your choice.
Yeah,
So what society thinks, honestly, you shouldn't really give a shit.
they really shouldn't.
You should be making these choices based on what you and your partner want. And if you want to be a stay at home parent, then you be a stay at home parent.
Mhm.
However, don't judge those who don't want the same.
Exactly.
That's the big difference.
So then when the person in the group was asking the question, what do men think women want? Whatever they're thinking has been wrong, where they think that it's a provider thing. At the end of the day, what anyone really wants is just a partner who wants what they also want, who their
Mhm.
wants kind of align. basically. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tricky when you're talking about straight relationships. Men, a lot of men, especially white men, I'm sorry to say this, but it's true, have been raised to have this entitlement of I deserve to have the woman I want, but without putting in the effort to get her. And I actually think that was the direction she was going. I think that was the point she was trying to make, that if you want the woman that you want, then you need to put in the effort to get her. Oh my God, I just had this conversation with my wax lady.
I can so get it because some of the men that have these super high expectations of the women are like slobs. They're
Mhm.
disgusting. They have bad habits. They're most times rude. You think, were you raised by wolves? Maybe. I'm actually considering you might actually have been raised by wolves. But yeah, they're like these disgusting men. But then their list for the mate that they want is like this laundry list of like superficial desires. Oh, she needs to have this size waist, big titties, a fat ass. She needs to be able to make food, but she also needs to, it's like, please, I hear when I hear my straight single friends talk about their relationships sometimes, I'm just like, oh my God, who the fuck is going to please you? This is going to be one interesting person.
If I could teach all of the single people out there one thing, myself included, but if I could teach them all just only one thing, it would be to let go of that list of expectations.
Mm,
Try for once to have no expectations. And those are different from standards, but
mhm.
try to have no expectations.
Is that the same as entitlement too? Like, don't have it, don't feel like you are entitled to anything. Like, can we,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of the same. Like, don't be entitled and don't have expectations.
Right. We treat dating like it's a goddamn job.
We really do.
I know it feels like one. It feels like a part-time job because you put so much time and effort into it. You're swiping, then you're having conversation, then
Mhm.
you're meeting in person, just spending, I don't know, God knows how many hours to find out that this person wasn't a good fit, or maybe you only go on 2 or 3 dates and then they ghost you. Well, that's
That's the
frustrating.
worst. That's so frustrating. I remember when I was single and that would happen. You just like, well, I'm used to it now because I'm an actor. You know, you I get ghosted by so many productions and like you go out, it's like going out for an interview all the time and then you think you did a good job and you don't hear from them ever again. It's like, did I just get ghosted again?
Yeah.
Like constantly getting go. Anyway, but
But
yeah,
it's the same thing, right? So people are going on dates now in this interviewing mode,
yeah, exactly.
and they just want to know, are you going to ghost me after the second date too? But if you keep going on a date in interview mode, then yes, I guarantee you, you're going to get ghosted,
Yeah,
or at least told that they're not interested,
yeah,
because you can't start a relationship as an interview.
yeah. Plus, that's kind of intense.
It's so intense.
Yeah. And I have some lawyer friends, and they're like, they're nice people when you get to know them and get a few, shots or a couple of whiskey neats in them. But outside of that, they're super intense. They're interrogating you. And when I talk to them, I can't imagine what it's like to date you because like everything turns into 20 questions basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yes.
why did you go there? And what made you think of that? And it's like it makes you tense up, I feel like. And if you're on a date with a person like that, it's like, come on, get the hell away from me. I don't want to have sex with you. I'm dry.
Especially a first date.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be asking any of that shit on a first date. You shouldn't be asking anything about their past relationships. I hear that
Mhm.
one all the time. So, when was your last relationship? None of your fucking business. This is a first date. Is it going to really determine whether or not you want to be in a relationship with me?
Is that a nervous tick question? Because I feel like I've asked that before, and the reason why I asked it was to fill up the dead air that was currently happening.
No, I actually think a lot of people ask that because they don't want to get burned. because they've been on so many dates and they want to know, have you been in a relationship? Do you know how to be in a relationship? When was your last relationship? How long was it? But, and I'm not saying don't ever ask these questions. They're extremely important questions to ask when you are to the point where you think, you know what, I want to date this person. They
Yeah.
are not first date conversations. First date needs to be fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's a little intense to learn. I feel like no matter when you learn it, it's intense to learn this, that the person you're currently with was just in a 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, however many year relationship. And it's just like, you know that they had a whole routine and a whole life with someone
Right.
for over a year. So actually to learn that information too early, I think that would kind of kill it. At
And
least,
you're going to judge
yeah.
because you don't know how long it takes for someone to heal. Someone could say, my last relationship was 2 years ago, and I had just gotten out of maybe a 10-year relationship. They may not be healed, they may not be over it.
Oh my God.
Yet someone could get out of a relationship maybe 6 months ago, but it felt over to them years ago and they're healed. They did the work. Maybe they went to therapy, whatever they did. Maybe they
Yeah.
hired a coach.
Yeah.
So you can't judge how long it takes someone else to become a whole person again after a relationship.
Mm.
And you don't know why someone hasn't been in a relationship either. So it's not first date questioning. Have you ever walked out of an interview and said, damn, that was fun, I want to do that again? Or walked out of an audition?
Auditions, yes. Interviews, no.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because well, that being said, auditions are supposed to be fun, and usually when they're fun, you get it. But you can't really say that about a job interview unless it's like your dream job. Like unless you're interviewing for like the job that you've wanted your entire fucking life, then maybe it could be fun. But
But you're probably nervous. I really want
yeah,
that job. I hope I get that job. Where an
that's
audition, you get to be playful, right? You get to tap into another side of you. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe people need to stop thinking of it as an interview and think of your first date as an audition.
yeah, and just have fun. Basically, you're trying to win over the other side with the best parts of your personality. So
Yeah.
do that on a date. That's actually a great idea. You should
We figured it out.
yes, treat your dates like it's an audition, not like I know
Not
we
an
were
interview.
talking about, yeah, we were talking about interviews, but I mean, yeah, there's one side of auditions where it is very intense. You know, you hear stories about ballerinas who fuck up their feet because they've been practicing so much. You hear stories about actors who freeze up because they've been studying their monologues so much that when the director finally says action, they're like, yes,
Uh,
that does happen. But as an artist, there is this side of it where if you allow yourself to be in the moment and just have fun with what is being asked of you, it can lead on to beautiful experiences. The experience itself, auditioning, can be a beautiful experience. And the same thing can be said about dating. So if you go to, I guess, what we're trying to get to, what you're trying to tell us, because I'm just, just
no,
thinking out
you're
loud.
right on it. You're right on it. Keep going with it.
Okay,
I
okay.
love this.
What I'm thinking is that we should start treating our dates like that, like have fun on it, explore the
Mm-hmm.
moment, see where it goes. And if you're having fun, if you're calm and you're centered and you're fully engaged in what is being asked of you, and you're open to receiving and giving, then that can open up doors to a third date, which is in the acting world called a callback. So
Exactly.
approach dating like it's auditions, like do your best on each one, but if you get a callback, that's great.
Absolutely. 100%. It's just a first date. You're just seeing, do I like this person enough to be around them again?
Hmm.
Don't set your future with them on a first date. You don't know anything about them.
This is true. Because even again, bring up the acting thing, that is really what's happening in the
Mhm.
interaction is, can I deal, or not deal, that's a negative word. Can I work with this person for however long it takes to get this production? pre-production, production, and post-production. Am I comfortable communicating what I desire and want from this person? And am I confident that they're going to give it to me? So it's kind of the same thing in dating. It's like, am I confident this person, if I communicate what I want in the future, will this person give it to me? Or will I be met with resistance?
Right.
Wow. Okay, that being said, so that question that you asked for this whole segment, basically about what women want from men, straight women, was actually a question that I had written down as well. So that was one of our,
See, I knew
yeah,
it.
yeah. But then there's actually a question you asked to the group. Now I'm switching it up. I know I have other questions here on this list that you have sent us, but I thought this was an interesting question because I like that you asked, I'm sorry, someone else asked this question, but you asked them to reword the question because of
That's on my list too.
okay. The question was, why are you still single?
Mm-hmm.
And I also put in parentheses negging, and it created such a response in the comment section. So my question to you is, in response to that question, why is it so negative when people ask that question on a first date?
I am so glad you brought that up because if you didn't, I was going to.
Okay.
I received so many messages about this one, private messages. People reached out and thought that I was being too harsh. And so I want to clarify that in no way was I trying to be harsh with the person who asked. The person who asked the question, we're in other groups together and we feed off of each other with questions and answers. And he's a really cool, chilled guy. So just to clarify, this wasn't me scolding him. This wasn't me yelling at him. And I am acutely aware that there is a language barrier. English is his second language.
Mhm.
So I just saw it as a beautiful teaching moment for the group. When you are on a date, and I know this happens a lot, or if you start messaging with someone and someone's like, damn, you're hot. Why are you still single? That is called negging. It's a backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
It's a compliment to say, God, you're hot, but something must be wrong with you because you're still single.
Yeah.
So when we ask someone, why are you still single? It's like saying something must be wrong with you. I'm missing something. Yes. What's the catch here?
You are too good to be true to be single. What's fucked up about you? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that's why I say to rephrase it, try something else. Try asking a question like, you know, what's made you stay single for this long?
Mm-hmm.
Ask the same flipping thing,
Yeah.
right?
But
I'm really asking the same thing, but in
that
a
gives the
way,
person a little bit more power in the situation.
yes. It's like asking, maybe it's been a choice you've made,
Mm.
right? And rather than just saying, why are you still single?
Mhm.
What
Is it also negative to say, has it been a choice of yours to stay single this whole time?
I don't think it's, well, me personally, I would be slightly, it'd be off-putting to be asked that. It's a little rude, and it's, if we're really trying to follow like the effective communication, then asking a question like that really takes some clever wording,
Mhm.
because if someone asks you, why are you still single? And you're on a first date with this person and they say to you, I'm single because I can't find the right person. What does that tell you? What do you assume if someone says, I just can't find the right relationship?
That they are picky and have high.
Exactly. Guarantee you, every single listener out there just said the same thing. They're like, oh, I don't know. Let me think. That you're picky, that there's something wrong with you, that people
Mhm.
leave you for some reason, that you are cray cray.
This is all true, and I'm thinking of all the, and I know it's okay, it's not innocent, but it kind of sort of is. It's like you just want to know, so you want to protect yourself from getting hurt, which is probably why it gets asked, whatever. But yeah, when the experiences that I've had being asked that question, I'm always sitting there like, how do I fucking respond to this? Like, do I say, oh, it's because I'm a bitch? Oh, it's because I'm moody as fuck and I don't know what range of emotion I'm going to be on any given day. And usually guys that I date run for the hills. Like, do you want that as an answer? Like, what the answer to that question if someone
Can you
asks that?
imagine?
Or, oh, I'm single because I was engaged, but my fiance jumped out of a helicopter. He jumped out of a plane. He was bungee jumping. The parachute didn't go off. That's a bummer too in a conversation. It could be anything, I feel like. So
Right.
it's
You
just
don't know
not
how
great.
long someone's been single.
Yeah,
That's a great point.
it's just not a great question to ask. It's not a
Mm-mm.
question. I almost feel like it's something that you should learn as the relationship progresses. I feel like that's almost
Yes.
you should learn in maybe date 8, 9, or
Mhm.
even 10. When you're just like, oh, who is this person in this picture? Oh, that's my ex. We were together for like 5 years. And then,
Right.
yeah.
It will slowly reveal itself over time as you get to know each other. Again, it's that interview question. I just want to get right straight to it, but someone can tell you when's the last relationship you were in. I don't know. It was 6 months ago.
Mm,
What does that tell you? That tells you
it
nothing.
doesn't.
It gives you a timeline. A timeline for what?
Nothing.
So to ask someone, why are you still single? Especially if you're asking this while you're on a date, it automatically brings hostility into the environment.
I
So
agree.
now you've just created and you've just put an elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Now, how are you going to recover from that?
You really can't. I mean, then the date turns into either A, you're trying to hurry up to get it done, or B, are we at least going to have sex? So then you start to just pivot the whole conversation really to see if you can at least get that out of the situation. Okay, so what's the next question we have on our list that we want to go through?
So the next one I did a video on Facebook about, and I actually think I put up a reel recently too, or about to put one up on Instagram about first date adventures.
Mhm.
And the one I put up on Facebook definitely sparked some questions from people about having a first date adventure.
Mhm.
And I see this more from men than I do from women. Men wanting to have this huge plan for a first date to impress. And I love that you guys are putting all this thought into it to impress. I kind of wish you had done that throughout the entire relationship and not just for the first few dates because that shit happens. But that's a conversation for another day. This is just for those first couple of dates, especially that first date. So some of the questions that have come in, a couple being from men asking why not, obviously, and some
It's like a
other,
video game or something.
I know, asking like, well, what can you do on a first date? Where's that cutoff point?
Mhm.
I usually tell clients try and keep your date simple, easy to extend if you are enjoying time together, but also easy to get out of if you're not feeling comfortable. And I think men especially forget that women have to consider safety. You are a stranger. I don't care how long you've been texting on an app or texting, via your actual phone numbers. You are still a stranger to this woman, and you need to respect the safety aspect. So if you want to have an adventure date on a first date and you want her to get into your car and you're going to drive off somewhere that's like 40 minutes away and have this wonderful adventure,
It's
hell no.
creepy. It's like the thought of it is just it's not a great idea. So is it a no to event? Because I will say for my first date with my current husband, besides when we just met for like 4 hours for dinner. The first official day, I was in New York City and I was doing some aerial photography where I was in this helicopter. I would put myself in, well, they put me in a harness. I would like take aerial shots in New York City. But that same day, he was asking if I was available to like just hang out. So then we went to brunch. And then after that, then he was like, "Oh, do you want to go do something else?" And then we went to, I think, a museum. I hope he doesn't kill me. I might be getting shit wrong. And then
Uh-oh.
at one point that day, we went to a piano bar. And then there was a ferry ride, all on the first date. But these are all things that as we finished one thing, we were like, okay, I don't want
Mhm.
to leave you now. What else can we do together? So would you actually
That's
suggest
it.
that's it? Okay.
That's the key right there. You just said it. If you start a date with something that's maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours max, you have the option to leave. Or you have the option, like you guys did, to continue the date, do the next thing, do the next thing. So, yeah, sure. If you want to come prepared with some ideas in the back of your head of like, you know what, if this goes really well, maybe afterwards we can do this. And then if she's still feeling it after that, we can go and do this. And then
Mhm.
maybe at some point you're like, well, I ran out of ideas. But don't assume that much time together.
Yeah.
And
Like
don't assume you're going to like her that long either.
that's a wild assumption too. Like people who prepay for certain things for a date, like it's romantic in theory to say, I booked us a river cruise date for our first date. It's 4 hours. What if after like 5 minutes you realize you fucking hate this person and now you're stuck on this fancy ass cruise for like 4 hours?
Right.
So yeah,
And don't pre-book shit for a
yeah.
first date. My friend learned that the hard way. He pre-booked the tickets to the Santa Barbara Zoo. And in fairness, in his defense, I think you had to at the time because it was during COVID,
Oh, yeah.
but he prepaid for them, non-refundable. And lo and behold, she backed out at the last minute for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. The point is, he got stuck with these Santa Barbara Zoo tickets. And I know some of you are probably going, who the fuck takes their first date to the zoo? The Santa Barbara Zoo is actually pretty baller.
Actually, yeah, my husband and I go to the zoos a lot, and it's actually a really nice date because it turns both of you, who regardless of gender and age, into children, and that
Mm-hmm.
wonder and that excitement. I think, doesn't it do something with some kind of hormones or something to make you bond or
Of
something? I don't know.
course. Of
Okay.
course. It like raises your dopamine. You're walking around, you're stopping, you're doing the Santa Barbara Zoo is beautiful. It's beautifully landscaped. They've redone a lot of the exhibits there. I'm pretty sure you can feed it's either the elephants or the giraffes, and it's
That is so
small enough.
fun feeding the giraffes. We got to feed giraffes at the Palm Springs Zoo. I didn't even know they had a zoo. But last time we were there, yeah, yeah, they have a fucking zoo. I was surprised.
I didn't know that either.
And you can feed the giraffes there. They're so cute to feed. So if you're ever on a date, definitely feed giraffes with the person you're with. That's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, be creative. But a zoo date, that would have only taken them maybe a couple of hours. That's not an all day thing. Now, if you're at the LA Zoo, that's probably an all day thing. But
You could get through it in like 2 hours, maybe
that's
less.
true.
Yeah.
If you don't have kids with you, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, you can be creative.
Mhm.
There's no one saying don't be creative with your first date. I'm saying don't make it this adventure that has a huge expectation attached to it. I'll
Mhm.
give you another example because this shit just happened to me. And I hope to God this dude doesn't listen to us. But if he does, my bad, you ghosted me. So he accidentally found out what I do for a living because we exchanged phone numbers and we were talking about a potential first date. And he said how he likes to have adventures for his first date and how he absolutely refuses to get a drink on a first date, and not necessarily an alcoholic one, but coffee. He doesn't like the typical sit down, meet face to face. Yeah, insert eye roll for our listeners who can't see us.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Just like white guy. They have so many rules.
which I'm totally fine if you want to do a hike. I know some people don't like to do that. I can do a beach walk. I can do a hike. I can be creative. So whatever you want to do, let's do it. And then he finds out what I do for a living. Now he's got to impress me, which I keep trying to explain. You don't have to impress me. And he wants to take a drive like an hour, 45 minutes, an hour away, insists that it's not a secluded area, won't tell me where we're going, wants to bring a picnic. So he's trying to figure out what kind of foods I like because he wants to bring oysters or some shit. And to top it off, then discloses that he believes in a right to carry. So he actually keeps a gun in his truck. I was like, are you out of your damn mind?
This is like a recipe for someone to run. Like, why would he like even plan this date and disclose that? What a moron.
And he wanted props for being open and honest about it. And I was like, great, good for you. I
No.
will meet you somewhere in a public place if you want to meet.
Oh my God. Who raised this guy? Seriously, who would even see? That's what bothers me sometimes about the dating field, or even just networking or getting to know people. The things people disclose to you right away, they really shouldn't. A, and B, what the fuck?
I love but I'm being open and honest. Okay. Well, I appreciate you being open and honest, as you should be. But at the same time, let's think about that. You want to take a woman to a location that you refuse to disclose that is going to take you maybe an hour to get to.
With no traffic.
And you've never met.
With a picnic, with food that you have no, you know,
Right, I don't know what it is.
You didn't prepare it, you didn't partake in that. And he has a carry. It's like license. It's like,
come on.
This is literally the outline of a horror film.
You know what? Yes. Are the chances that he's a decent human being, he's just making really bad choices? Sure.
Sure, but come on.
But women, those of you who are listening, please do not get into a vehicle with a date that you've never met before. You don't know this person. Have you ever heard of Ted Bundy? Need I say more?
You say this, we say this. And I know the whole point of our show was to help people make better decisions when it comes to healthy relationships. But you and I both know bad boys get us into their cars and get us to do, and bad girls too. It's not just bad boys, bad people. I don't want to say bad. Bad people sound so negative. When I say bad boys and bad girls, it kind of sounds sexy in a way. But if you say bad people, it sounds like we're just making poor choices, which we are. Anyway, so there is that sexiness, that allure to people that are like that do make weird and bad decisions, Because I'm pretty sure, did you meet the guy that ghosted you?
No.
So I'm just going to throw this out there, and I could be completely wrong. There's probably a good chance that if you met, you probably would have been wildly attracted to him.
Oh, I think I would have been.
Yeah, because
he was hot as fuck.
That's the thing. And and I try to tell my straight friends this. I'm like, if you can be just slightly less creepy in your approach, you would not be single, because these straight guys that are listening to this show, you are hot. Women think you're hot. You're just creepy. If you come off like a serial killer, if you come off with any thoughts of, if you give up any kind of feelings that you might murder someone or rape them or completely try to control the situation, even though I know in their mind they're like, oh, I'm trying to be super romantic, I want to like surprise her and she's going to be like, wow. It doesn't work like that in this modern world where people are getting raped, murdered, and trafficked into very bad situations. So because that exists, this magical world that the movies have created where, you whisk a person away and, to some foreign place that they have no idea, and they're just going to be just in love with you and just have the goo goo gaga eyes, that doesn't exist. Maybe for like an anniversary gift, that you've been with the person for like 10 years, 7 years, 5 years, whatever, then yeah, it's romantic. But on first few dates, just drop the creep factor and
Right.
you won't be single that much longer. Like,
No, you're absolutely right. Because I hear men all the time saying, but women keep saying they want this in a guy. Yeah, they want it in their boyfriend or in their husband, not from a first date or a second date where they don't know who you are yet. You're still a stranger.
yeah,
Earn that, build up to it.
exactly. Just be fun. Like in the audition, just be fun. Like that's it.
Yes,
Like
that's
it's
it.
like I see relationships where I'm always like, how the fuck did those two get together? But at the exact same time that I'm asking that question in my
Mhm.
egotistical negative way, I also realize it just proves to me that anyone has an opportunity for love if you allow yourself to be who you are. Because a couple that I'm looking at where I'm like, what is it? If you peel the layers away, if you look deeply, there's something that connects it. It could be a hobby, it could be, a skill set, it could be a movie franchise, it could be anything. But there
Mhm.
was something that brought those two people that you're like, how did they find love? Those two people were somehow able to have fun around each other. And because of that fun, they now have a relationship. And I think that is
Right.
the one thing I feel most people are missing when it comes to dating and courting is they don't make it fun anymore. It's all a business transaction. It's all how are we going to look like Black
Right.
power love? Or are we going to look like the successful couple? Or are we going to look like, are we going to make people jealous, like insta jealous if we're together? Get rid of
God,
all get rid of
seriously.
all the BS, the bullshit that's surrounding it and just have fun.
Right, because now everyone displays their relationships on social media. They want to make sure that it's going to get enough likes or my family will approve or whatever your reasoning is instead of just saying, "You know what, is this am I going to feel excited about this person? Am I going to feel happy when I'm around them? What emotions will I feel when I see them next time?"
Yeah.
Just like on a first date. I actually went on a first date recently and told the guy that I can't commit to a second date during the first date. So don't ask. I need to go home and think about it.
Honest question because that makes him have to work a little bit harder to earn that second date in a way.
Well, think of, people joke, and I'm probably dating myself here talking about Friends, but Chandler used to have this problem on Friends where he would constantly keep saying, like, it was really fun. Let's do this again. And it's so common that people do that on a first date,
And they
and you
don't.
don't really mean it. You
I
get
hate
home
that
and
we
you're like,
say things that
nah.
we don't mean anymore. We should really go back to saying yes and no and really mean it. Like, or just don't say anything that you're not sure you can back up. Because I've had so many experiences lately where someone has said something to me in private and that I
Mm-hmm.
have grown to the expectation of what they said to me. And it's kind of made me anxious and it ruined that particular experience. So I've learned that we need to just not say stuff that we're not sure we can back up. And it's just to save ourselves and save the other person and let things be a nice, fun surprise if they do call you. So like,
Right.
yeah, yeah, I get where you're.
Right. Don't commit to anything on the first date, because you do need that time to process. You need to be able to go home and think, how did I have fun? Did I have, yeah, that person was okay. I'm still thinking about them.
Mhm.
Or, I'm not really thinking about them anymore. And I said I would go on a second date, but I think I'll just ghost them now.
Yeah.
Eesh.
Which then creates that whole thing, which is probably what's happening. So if you're getting ghost, actually that is what's happening. Because when I think back in the past of every time I've ever been ghosted by someone, they were creating this illusion or expectation for me that they were interested when really they were just trying to be nice to save my feelings
Mm-hmm.
instead of just being honest. Those of you listening, just be honest. Like if you want to have sex, just have sex. If you're not interested, you're not interested. You don't owe anyone love.
Exactly. You owe them respect.
but not
to
love.
yourself and to them, but you don't owe them love. You don't owe them sex. You don't owe them anything. You don't owe them a second date. So if you are a woman who a man just paid for your date, maybe it was expensive dates, maybe there was wine involved, or you had an elaborate dinner, or you, I don't know, did some activity that costs a lot. I mean, maybe you went golfing, or I don't know, whatever you did. You don't owe anything.
You
This is
don't.
part of the experience. You make the choice. If a man makes the choice in the moment to say, pay for dinner, that is a choice he's made. This is not a transaction.
Yes, we need to get away from this transactional love that
Yes.
seems to be, and I think it happens to all kinds of relationships. It's not just a
Mhm.
straight thing or a black relationship thing or a gay relationship thing or interracial. It's all relationships. We need to just get rid of that.
I agree. And on that note, sorry, listeners, but that is all the time you get from us today. I'm going to
Ah,
cut us off for the listeners, because if you want to hear the rest of these questions and answers, you are going to hop over to patreon.com, Patreon, and you're going to follow us there. So, for one, you can see us because we
yeah,
are awesome to look
I'm
at.
wearing like a spaghetti strap tank top today. You can look at my like
You are looking pretty hot today.
my upper pectoral. I didn't feel like changing. I was sitting here work design. You know, let's go to the
You know,
post.
you got really nice shoulders. I feel intimidated by your shoulders as I'm like looking at you, and I'm like, dang, I need to work out my shoulders.
I don't know where this comes from. I think it's because maybe a lot of my men in my family are built like this. Who knows? I guess it's a black thing. Anyway, let's go.
So thank you, listeners, for listening to us. Please follow us and give us a review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to us, and join the Facebook group Date Smarter, Sexier, and get involved in the conversation. Until next time. Sorry, my gut just said cut them off.
That was actually a really good idea because I was about to start asking because I have like 3 or 4 more questions here. But you know what? We can always even still save some of these for later. But I love where the conversation was going. That was a
Yeah,
good
and we're going to continue it. So anyone who's watching us now gets the inside.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
what are the rest of the questions?
Well, the one that I have here, well, this one's kind of a sad question. It was probably good we didn't ask it on the show, the free show. But one guy actually asked, "How do I date when I'm bereaving a recent loss?" Because you know we're gonna talk about it a little in the free episode coming up, our season finale. You know, depression, love, and COVID, or love, COVID, love, depression. We'll settle on the name, but
Right.
that is happening. You know, people are losing, you know, their family members, their mates, and you still have to get back out there. Like my mom, my dad died less than a year ago, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
here and there she's throwing out bits and pieces that she might be considering dating again. So it just had me thinking, like, you know, your partner dies, life does still go on. So with that being said, how does one still date if they're dealing with loss?
You have to be ready. So you have to heal from your loss first. And for most people, it means therapy of some sort, either coaching or therapy. Um, you can't you can't date from a place of broken.
Mm,
And it's not necessarily that you are broken, but you feel that way when
yeah.
you've experienced some type of loss, even if it's not the loss of a partner. So when my dad died, I had a hard time dating. I was in a relationship, but I couldn't date in that relationship, if that makes sense. Our relationship pretty much got put on hold
Mm,
because I just didn't know how to give. I
mhm,
was too broken from that loss.
mm. Was it because the death was preoccupied majority of your thoughts, which then kept you from really putting any attempt into the relationship? Is that possibly what happened?
Yeah, that'll happen in the beginning, but
Okay.
then over time, you suffer from other issues. There are things like, for me personally, I don't trust that you won't die on me. It's not like my dad died on purpose, you know, like he didn't do it on purpose, but something deep inside of me didn't have the faith to think this person isn't going to leave me. And so it depends on what your experience was, the connection that you had with the person who passed, the cause of it. You know, people who lose loved ones from illness, cancer, anything like that, they have a fear sometimes that I'm going to find someone else and it's going to happen again. We
Yeah.
know that we can heal from it
Mhm.
because we've done it. We know that it's not going to kill us, but my God, who wants to go through that heartbreak again?
Yeah.
It's really hard to get through. And so I can see a lot of people really suffering to get through it. You do need someone to kind of help you through it in the beginning.
I can see that. I think I have issues with that too sometimes. And I think it stems all the way back to my grandfather when he died. I was so attached to my
Mm,
mother's parents. And when they died, I felt like I lost like the only support system I'd had because my parents, they were very busy. They were career-driven parents. So, th- we we didn't suffer, but my parents were preoccupied with, their ambitions and whatever.
right.
Being said, when my grandfather died and my grandmother died a few years prior to that, I felt like uh, I abruptly learned about life and death at such a young age to the point where I almost feel like nothing is permanent, nothing is forever. You can really only appreciate it for today. So it almost built like this detachment in a way. And even
Right.
with my dad's recent death, sometimes I look at my own husband, I'm like, this relationship has a timeline. I don't know it could be me first, it could be him first, it could be death, it could be just a relationship dissolving. Who knows? But every
Mhm.
story has an ending. And if you get caught in that, I can see where that loss and that bereavement may make you go down that spiral where it builds a wall between you and connecting with other people because you're afraid. But at the
Right.
exact same time, if you go through therapy and work through it, like I probably should a little bit more, I can see where you appreciate the small things, the gestures, the moments that you have just in everyday life become even more special because you realize that this story will be ending at some point and I don't know when.
Right. So it's a couple things. It's, you know, staying present in the moment with your partner. If
Mhm.
you're getting into a new relationship and you've been through a death like that, then you need to stay present and keep staying present in the moment and don't think about what might happen, what
Yeah,
could happen. You don't know. You just don't know.
yeah,
And so if you live in this future that doesn't exist, you're going to miss what's right in front of you. And it's going to be really hard to maintain any kind of healthy relationship. Now, the flip side of that is that if you are to a point where you've healed from the death, but now you're going into relationships comparing everyone to that person, because that was probably maybe that was your perfect person, but they died and that was your soulmate. So
yeah,
now you got to find a new soulmate.
yeah,
So that can be really challenging
yeah.
because all you're thinking is, this person didn't leave me. This person didn't break my heart. They
Mhm.
didn't cheat on me. They didn't run away. They died. They were taken from me.
Yeah,
So that's a whole other issue to have to try and work through with dating.
yeah. So I feel on the other end, it feels more like you had no control at all in the situation.
Right.
And that's kind of I feel like that's the one thing a lot of humans struggle with is the idea and the concept of control. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really truly exist, but we think it does. And we think that if we do certain things, things will go in our favor. but
Right.
it's never been like that. It's not been designed like that. Like none of it works like that. And I think that's the unlearning I feel like we all have to do, even when I feel so positive about our show because of the message that we're trying to get out there that it's bigger than us, but then not really. It's bigger than us, yes. The whole notion of just being who we are and dating and yada yada yada, but it's not because it's the most basic thing that we have to offer one another is ourself. But so
Right.
many of us have such a problem just offering ourself to others because of expectations, because of preoccupied thoughts of loss or death or living in the past or living in the future instead of the now.
It's hard to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
It shows, it's like peeling back the onion layers when you're being vulnerable and getting to the core. And for most of us, that's scary because we can be hurt.
Yeah.
But what we don't realize is that as you peel back each layer, no matter which layers peel back, no layers are peeled back, you can still get hurt.
Yeah.
So why not try to allow someone to peel those layers back, be vulnerable, and open yourself up to potential greatness?
Yeah. There's no way to escape all of these things that people feel like they're trying to escape or feel like they're trying to numb themselves from. We need to embrace all of this shit.
Yeah.
Like there are negative things that are going to happen. But honestly, when I think back of all my bad relationships, I would not have the relationship I have now if I didn't go through all those shitty fucking relationships. Like
Because you
without
learn from them.
exactly. But for I feel so many of us, including myself, even still to this day, we look at these negative experiences as bad, 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 bad. But really, they're good because they're allowing you to know what you don't want, which then helps you get closer to what you do want. Unless you're the
Yes.
kind of person that totally ignores your bad decision making and ignores the consequences, and things keep happening over and over and over. Ugh, what a web we weave. Uh,
Honestly.
yeah. Did you have any other questions? Like, I have one, but I feel like you probably have another question that someone sent in for us to answer.
Um, we've kind of covered them. I've accidentally covered them in other questions.
Mhm.
But I also didn't take all of the questions. I kept my list pretty short.
Hmm. Well, then I do have one more that someone sent in. Um, well, I don't even know. Should we just save it for the next show? And then I'm looking at it because we could save it.
I mean, I don't know. It's
How
your call.
how consistent should someone be when communicating during their initial dating period? Like we talk about going with the ebb and flow. And I noticed like some of us, me including, when we're like friendships or dating, we're afraid to send that message. We're afraid to be too engaged because we want to play it cool, because we don't want to
Mm,
seem like, we're thirsty or some shit like that. But sometimes we're actually, we're really interested in the other person, but we're afraid to send that message or whatever the case may be, because we're trying to
right.
court the. So, how much is too much? Like, what is the answer to this? Should you just go with the flow, or is there a definitive formula to communicating via text and phone call? Well, phone calls don't really exist, but via text messaging.
So I'm going to say don't hold back, but I'm also going to say don't show you're crazy.
And it's
I
like
know
a
people are going to hear me say, don't
fine
hold back.
line.
Okay, I'm texting him 5 text messages right now. Oh, but you didn't respond. I'm going to text you again because I want you to respond faster, but I'm going to text you again. That is not what I mean by don't hold back.
Yeah.
If you are interested in someone, text them. If they don't respond, then they're probably not interested.
Mm,
Right. If
mm,
you feel like you are pulling teeth to get someone to communicate with you, then they're probably not very excited about you. They
mm,
might find you attractive because that happens a lot. And I think people don't really know how to navigate that.
Mhm.
Here's a person, I went on a date with them. They're really attractive, but our conversation was just so.
Mhm.
And sure, I'll keep them in my back pocket for if I have nothing else to do this weekend.
Oh my God.
Exactly. So if you are interested in someone and you leave the date and you're thinking, oh my God, when can I text them? I really want to talk to them again. That was so much fun. Should I wait the 3 date rule? Well,
Mhm.
the 3 date crap is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's crap.
Yeah.
It's not, if you like someone and you're interested, text them. If they're interested in you, they'll text you back.
Mhm.
Now, don't go crazy. And yes, I do think that you should have balance. If someone is texting you, one line at a time kind of thing, and you're sending a paragraph, tone it down a bit because that's telling you they're probably not great about having conversation via text.
Someone got mad at me like that. And I knew why they got mad at me, but I didn't want to call them on because I really didn't care that much. But they sent me this whole paragraph, and I just sent like a one. When I messaged them back, it was like one line at a time. But the last line that they got, I'm assuming that they probably saw and just thought that I was being an asshole. But if they would have opened up the whole fucking thing, they would have saw that there's a lot leading up to that statement. So they ignored it for like 2 or 3 days. And then when I finally sent a new message, like, are you ignoring my message? Is oh, my bad. You know what? From now on, you should send me messages like this because I didn't realize that you had said all this other stuff. He didn't say this. I'm like, it felt like he was trying to say, I was actually just ignoring you because I thought you were being an asshole. When really, we're not aligning with our communication skills. So it's
Right. So he asked you to change for him, is what he just did.
yeah, and we're no longer friends. So there's that.
It's because when you get the notification on your phone, if you've sent multiple texts, the last one shows, at least for an iPhone. I don't know about the rest of them. I'm not a phone expert, but at least for me, that's what happens on mine. The last one shows, which is why I have chosen to change it so it just says so-and-so text message.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And it doesn't show the preview of the text message because that is what happens.
Yeah.
You
But
see
that
the
also
preview of the
happens in
last one.
DMs because that's where I think a lot of dating happens in DMs too. That's where this interaction happened. Text, it probably would have been not have happened as much because you do get the pings, but I do see what you're saying because you do see it on your phone. I did have to get rid of that because sometimes my phone would just be sitting out somewhere around strangers and you don't know pop up sometimes. So it could be like, here's a dirty pic for you. And in mid-afternoon, you're like, oh my God, go away now. But like some messaging apps where I do know people are linking and sending messages to other people like DMs and TikTok.
Messenger doesn't let you change that.
Yeah, it's so weird, but it leads to people assuming that you just sent one message and that message says this one thing when that's not the case. And then people get all pissy about it.
Well, maybe they need to stop assuming.
Yeah.
Don't rely on the notification that comes through to tell you the conversation. Open it up. Don't be so lazy.
Yeah.
Open it up and read it. If you're sending a conversation, some people send paragraphs, some people send a line at a time.
Mhm.
But the point is like, be open to other people's styles
of communication and don't be such
a
bitch.
You're never going to find someone. You're never going to get into a really healthy relationship if you have rules about texting.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is the same.
Exactly.
And you can't expect that. And that shouldn't have any bearing on your relationship. When you are in a relationship, texting is going to change anyways.
Yeah. It has for me and my husband, that's for sure. Like sometimes I get exhausted when he sends me messages. I'm like, can't you just tell me when you get home? So it definitely changes for relationship. It's like, come on, like we see each other. Like, tell me then. So we have something to talk about.
But yeah, I mean, I've had it happen. I've had guys who are like on it with the texting in the beginning, and then we're in a relationship, and it's like, so what happened? You were like, we don't hardly ever text anymore. And it's just the way people process things. He looks at as texting as part of the pursuing.
Mm.
Other people might see it the opposite way. Well, I don't want to text you a lot. I don't really know you.
Yeah.
Now I really like you in a relationship. So now I want to text you throughout the entire day. Exhausting.
That
But that's just me.
I don't like that. Like I remember when texting, now I'm dating myself, but I remember when 9/11 happened and texting was just becoming a thing. My friend had a T-Mobile phone and we were like sending messages to like, local dirty men basically. And I remember how cool it was back then because it's like, oh, it's so easy. You could just send a message without really engaging with the person.
Mm-hmm.
Now the thought that people can contact me. Like I avoid sometimes my messenger app because I don't want to give people the idea because I am working sometimes. I am doing shit and sometimes it's an active choice not to be online sometimes because it does become consuming where you get these pings every 5 seconds, message. Next thing you know, you're always on your phone and it just takes away from life. And honestly, I feel like it has done damage to some of my relationships than it has helped. This whole new, I feel like our relationship works way better when we're like talking to each other. When I'm like messaging you, like I read the message, I just, I answer and then I move on. But then when we're talking, we get to engage each other. We get to like
Right.
feed off of each other's like reactions and mood and whatnot. And I've gotten to know you much better that way. And I feel like that's how I work. So to know that there's people out there that they only communicate via text.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a song. It's on iTunes under my singing name Links Fulton. It was a song I wrote called "Text Stop Texting Me," something like that. And it was about this last guy I was madly in love with, but he had a problem with communication. He only wanted to text and very irregularly. So we never talked over the phone. And then when he did communicate with me, it's like 1 hour here, and then there would be a gap, and they'll hit me up again, and there'll be another gap. And I'm just like, this is the worst I've ever communicated with someone, but yet you're faking, or at least you're giving me the idea that you're interested in me. So how is it you're interested in me, but then you don't want to talk over the phone? And then when we do text, it's like I'm talking to a brick wall sometimes before you respond to me. So it's just weird. It needs to stop.
That's a really good point because that happens with me sometimes. Like I'll be in the middle of texting someone back and forth for a little bit and then I disappear because I'm on a client call. And I'm on a client call for an hour. So I've disappeared now for an hour.
Mhm.
But I've had to learn if we are texting back and forth, like conversationally, to say, all right, got to hop on a call. I'll text you back in an hour or I'll text you back when I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of have to do that because for some weird reason, I guess because texting is so open in a way that really the conversation never really ends. I am
Right.
guilty of texting with someone, not texting with them for maybe like 5 days, and then the next message is something abrupt like, send me these two pictures right now. And it's just like, there's this huge gap because in our mind, the conversation doesn't end.
Right.
I never said goodbye, but really in actuality, the conversation abruptly ended a few days ago when no one said goodbye after someone asked a question, the other person didn't respond. And then it picked up days later without any acknowledgement of the previous conversation. That's like that's like me talking to you right now. I walk away.
But you're right. That's how texting has become. Like sometimes they're conversations, sometimes they're just random thoughts, but it's hard to know. My ex was like that. He didn't really like texting. He wouldn't just sit there and text for a few minutes to have that conversation. He'd pick up his phone, send me a text, put it down, do work. Oh, she texted me back. Pick it up, text me back, put it down, go do work. Having a conversation with him took literally all day because it was like an hour later, 2 hours later, sometimes 4 hours later. And it was like, oh my God, I don't like texting with you.
Which is what I think this guy was like. Maybe I don't think that he was disinterested. He could have been a busy person, but it was the poor communication of saying, hey, I'm going to be in the studio all day making music. So I'm only going to really be texting you here and there. So really don't just, it's like
Exactly.
just communicate what the fuck is going on, because really what's happening is you're starting a conversation and abruptly walking away from the person.
Right. And that's actually a really good point. So, you know, it's okay to tell someone this is my texting style,
Mhm.
or to simply say, I'm going to be hopping in and out of client calls all day. So if I don't respond, it's nothing personal. I can't text while I'm on a call,
Yeah. We didn't
you
have to do
know.
this like pre-cell phones, I guess pre-texting, you
No,
just kind
because
of,
you didn't have a way to communicate. If you didn't pick up
yeah,
the phone and say, hey, blah, 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 blah. And then that was
yeah,
like a 2-hour conversation
yeah.
too.
Now
But
we have
yes,
weird expectation that people are at our fingertips at all fucking times. I don't,
right.
it's icky sometimes.
Or
Well,
how about you didn't text me back fast enough.
and you know what? There's no way of getting away from that when we live in a world where things are so instantaneous. Like we put in food in
Mhm.
our microwave, we get it a minute later. We have a Keurig. Now we'd have to like brew a whole fucking coffee pot. Just like, one to maybe 45 seconds. You have a new. It's like everything is instant, so we expect people to be instant as well.
Yep.
I feel like we talked about so much in this post. I almost wish it was an episode, but that is for all of you watching
Who
us.
pay for it?
Yeah, so you have received a wonderful conversation, basically.
I think so. Not that we're not full of ourselves or anything, but
No, no, I was just like, as we were talking, it just, my brain was like churning about past experiences and things I've gone through. I'm like, gosh, how eye-opening now that I'm getting fucking
Mhm.
older and having these conversations with you.
And this happens a lot with us, even during our planning sessions. Sometimes we kind of go off on these tangents that should probably all be episodes as well, but
Yeah, it is what
you
it
get
is.
what you get.
Yeah. But on that note, we should end now because I'll be seeing you tomorrow. We'll be recording our season finale.
Yes. So these will be a little out of order for those viewers that are watching right now, but hang in there. This is what, episode 20?
Mhm.
Episode 24 is what we're recording tomorrow. And it
Yeah,
is an episode you will not want to miss. It's
yeah.
going to be
It's a
amazing.
nice it's a nice bookend to those of you that were introduced to us with COVID and love. So
Mhm.
it's a great way for us to reconnect with you about what initially brought you on to listening and watching our show. So we hope that you enjoy that episode. Maybe that one should be free. Like the first episode, excuse me,
Oh,
COVID and love.
yeah.
The video one is free for our non-Patreon subscribers. So maybe we'll make that one free as well. Who knows?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, but the rest of this is for you guys and you guys only.
Thank you for watching us, and thank you for being
Yes.
with us and subscribing to our channel. And feel free to also reach out to us as well if you have any thoughts or concerns or questions or suggestions or any of the things at datesmartersexier@gmail.com.
Yes.
Till next time. Bye.